It is entitled Collaring Elephants, How They Can Be Utilized for HEC Mitigation and Research.
Thank you. Can you hear me in the back? Good. Okay, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you today. I'll be presenting to you a little bit around the elephant collars that we supply and how they can be utilized in human-elephant conflict mitigation and research in general. We've heard several talks over the past couple of days regarding HEC, and it's clear it's a major issue facing elephant and conservationists trying to manage elephant across their range. So, with increasing pressure on natural ecosystems and the wildlife populations they support, studying the range use of wildlife, their social behavior and ecosystem utilization, as well as the human impact, in other words, both sides of the coin, has become increasingly important. This research is a focal point in both understanding these systems and informing advocacy for better protection. And of course, elephant especially are also severely impacted by shrinking habitats. Their coexistence near human settlements have led to an increase in human-elephant conflict situations arising. There's a whole plethora of technologies that are available on the market to monitor elephants, their movements, and habitat utilization. And what I'll try and do is lift out for you a couple of aspects that can be considered in using collars. So, firstly, a little history regarding global supplies and how we fit into the picture. We're not just some random guys that hand out pamphlets in the foyer here. We've been at the cutting edge of supplying products and services to the wildlife industry for the last 17 years. Now, we've grown this business drawing on our own personal experience in the wildlife management field, specifically also related to elephant management. There's a list of some of the products and services we supply. You know, we're sort of jack of all trades and master of a few. And I think the four that are highlighted there are most probably of interest to the current audience. You know, so that's elephant immunocontraception, wildlife capture and translocation, wildlife tracking solutions, and then remote camera traps. So the big question is, what does a day in the life of global suppliers look like? So what I can tell you is that we're very fashion forward. We climb around quite a bit, and we've heard a lot of talk around human-elephant conflict and human-human conflict and interactions. I mean, we've experienced some human-hippo interactions ourselves as well. But anyways, that being said, you know, we have and we continue to be involved in very impactful elephant conservation and management projects. Both my colleague JJ and myself have worked in Kruger for a number of years, and subsequently in the private wildlife capture industry. We're also very active in the reintroduction and establishment of several elephant populations across smaller private reserves in South Africa. JJ has been involved with the Humane Society International's PZP immunocontraception program as a field implementation specialist. That's a mouthful. And myself managed a discrete elephant population of about 130 elephants at Pinde Private Game Reserve for a period of 9 years whilst I was warden there. As such, we are conversant with all these human-elephant conflict situations, you know, personally having to manage some of these situations that have arisen. And throughout our careers, you know, we've continued looking at technological advancements and what can be used to make the job of managing elephant populations easier. So I think a lot of the speakers have covered a lot of this, but I'll just briefly run through it again to put our spin on it. So due to the fragmentation of habitat, elephant ranges have become confined to much smaller areas. Some historical migration corridors have been totally abandoned due to the degradation of cover, the extension of human settlements, and the intensification of agricultural practice. So the time bomb, which has been alluded to a couple of times, is human overpopulation. And reference was made to the UN report in 2016. Current African human population at 1.225 billion people, and estimated to double in size by 2050, which is a scary thought, and I think we should all be shivering in our boots. People encroach into what was previously undisturbed elephant habitat, and due to these migratory routes that are being cut and national parks that are hemmed in by farmland, it's clear that the biggest threat to elephant is actually the human race. So higher rates of HEC is to be expected as the population increases, and the use of surface water accelerates. And I think with climate change creating these outliers, massive drought and massive flood incidents, these may eventually push elephant to migrate even further from protected areas. There was a study done in Tanzania by an NGO called the Wildlife Connection, specifically focusing on human-elephant conflict. And they surveyed 23 villages across a number of years. They reported an increase from 325 human-elephant conflict incidents in 2015 to 557 in 2016. And I think what's more interesting is that nearly 80 of the incidents reported in 2016 came from 3 villages that had never previously had any issues with the elephant, which just shows this increased interface and interaction between humans and elephant. So there's a lot of focus on this aspect. I mean, there's a whole conference been convened here and a lot of talks around this point. A lot of scrutiny in the media. There seems to be less tolerance day by day as time goes by. And I actually read an article this morning which reported that human-elephant conflict, or the scope of human-elephant conflict in Botswana, is on par with the entire Botswana diamond mining industry in terms of the political impact it can have on the elections next year. So it just shows you how big this problem is. Anyway, so it's clear if we want to see more of this and less of these scenes, then absolutely something drastic needs to be done. So current mitigation actions, I think, rest on 2 legs. I think a lot of you have also mentioned a couple of these strategic or policy issues, which is primarily people-focused. And of course, that's by no means an exhaustive list. But anyways, the other aspect is active measures, which is focused on the elephant and what we do to keep elephant away from these sensitive areas, from human settlements, areas where they're not supposed to be. And that's done through watchtowers, chili bombs, tripwires, beehive fences as pioneered by Dr. Lucy King, planting of non-preferred crops, using pyrotechnics and drones as Audrey demonstrated earlier this morning. But, and that's the big but, that's always in everything, continued research and monitoring is required. We need to evaluate the efficacy of all these methods. And more technological advancement is required to develop these spatial models that will assist elephant managers and land use planners to predict current and future potential conflict hotspots. In the end, human-elephant conflict is not likely to be resolved anytime soon, but until larger protected areas and safe corridors are established, the game is lost. So in the meantime, the creative use of new technologies can at least allow for a more peaceful coexistence between humans and elephants. So there was a video shown by the guys from Uganda, which was a night vision video of elephants raiding crops. Now, they were lucky, they had night vision equipment. Many of you will know that elephant can hide pretty well, and there's a lot of constraints that hamper the monitoring of them, be it landscape or behavioral factors. And as such, tracking collars have been used in the last decade or so to great effect to get a grip on their habitat use and ranging patterns. To be able to deploy those active mitigating measures, we need to know when and where elephant are. One aspect that I do feel where researchers potentially fail is not using collars to their full potential. often, you know, an MSc student, they're only interested in a GPS location, and that's it. You know, they write up the whole paper's done, and they move on. But these collars have got so much more functionality, which can definitely be utilized more. So, Global Supplies are the African distributing partner for electronic aerospace. We're based in Germany, and we supply the elephant collars to a significant number of projects throughout Africa. I'll just give you a brief technical rundown of the units. We've kind of taken a U-turn in terms of the design of these units. You know, all the electronics, the batteries, everything is housed in a single housing, which hangs below the elephant's neck. And the reason we've done that is to prevent it from being bashed around. You know, if it sticks out above the head and the animal's foraging, you know, obviously a lot of branches hit it. But also it minimizes the risk of cable breaks. They feature a double antenna design with a splitter, and this is to maximize successful communication with the satellites and to transmit your data out. They have bidirectional communication via iridium, so you can change any parameters, sampling parameters on the fly while it's deployed. It's got the standard UHF radio communication, VHF beacon, an activity sensor, as well as a virtual fence function, which I'll elaborate on a little bit more. They also feature external sensors, you know, which can be used in a wide range of varied studies. Now, with these collars, you know, we often get the question, but as with most studies, you know, budgets are always a potential concern, you know, and everybody fights hard for their conservation dollar. So, you know, what I always tell researchers that you need to take into consideration the expanded lifespan of certain collars. You know, we've had some of these collars which have been operating in South Africa for 7.5 to 8 years. And you know, when you have those extremely long lifespans, your year-on-year annual cost is actually pretty cost-effective. The collars offer two types of activity sensors. The first is a basic activity sensor, which basically records 5-minute averaged accelerometer data. And this is mainly used for mortality alerts, as well as just basic activity sensing. The alternative to that is the advanced sensor package, which samples anything between 2 to 32 hertz, and it's got a sensitivity range between 2 and 8 G. Now, this obviously generates a lot of data, you know, so you can't transmit that data. It has to be downloaded via cable connection at the end of a deployment. But it's filled in a lot of gaps in terms of understanding energy expenditure, as well as activity budgets. So external sensors can be used for a range of different purposes, you know, studying the interaction between animals, be it fission and fusion of herds, herd interactions, you know, different herds, male-female interactions, etc. And this is done via proximity sensors. These proximity sensors have an average detection range of about 300 meters. And what will happen is, if two of these collars come within that detection range, for example, we can have the collars programmed to change the sampling frequency, which will just give you a lot finer scale data in terms of that specific interaction between the two animals of interest. We also use separation sensors. Again, that's quite handy if you're looking at dispersal, you know, maybe sub-adults moving out, young bulls moving out from a herd. When that happens, how frequently it happens, is it a long-term process, or do they just get kicked out once off? Okay, so most GPS satellite collars nowadays offers virtual fence capability, which can be used either for incursion or breakouts for exclusion studies. So whatever I'm going to tell you here now in terms of an animal staying within a safe area, the reverse is also true. You know, you can create your virtual fence around a human settlement where you don't want elephant to go into, or you want to be aware when they do go into that area. So it's a relatively basic tool. It allows you to define areas of special interest. certain wildlife areas, certain vegetation types. Perhaps there's home ranges of inter or intraspecific species that you're interested in what your study animal does in that area. So for habitat use, you can increase your GPS fix rate in an area with a different vegetation structure, or compare grasslands versus forest behavior. Interaction I've mentioned, you can see what animals do when they move into different territories of other animals, and then combined with the proximity sensor, it actually provides a lot of new insight into interaction between individuals. For human-wildlife conflict, it can be used to get a better picture of fine-scale movements whenever the animal moves closer to a settlement, livestock grazing ground, crops, etc. The cons of this is that it's fixed rate specific. So your virtual fence notification is based on the GPS location of the collar, i.e. is it inside or outside of the virtual fence? And this entirely depends on your sampling strategy. So, for example, here, if you look at the picture at the bottom here, your animal could be inside your virtual fence, move outside, cause a lot of havoc, move back inside by the time the next fix is taken if you're running at like 4-hour GPS fixes, and you wouldn't even know that anything had taken place. Another drawback is that the alert only comes in post the actual breach incident. So what we've worked on is virtual fencing 2.0 basically. What we've done here is you create your virtual fence polygon, in this instance an internal virtual fence with a buffer zone to the edge of the actual reserve boundary. Now that still doesn't really help you if you are running at a normal sampling rate, at a 4-hour sampling rate, because the animal can cover that area within that 4 hours. So we've started utilizing UHF proximity stations, which when the collar comes into proximity of that, within detection range of that base station, it changes the GPS sampling frequency on the unit, which then gives you a much nearer real-time picture of what's taking place. We're also working on an automated crawl alert system, which works on the same basic UHF proximity principle. It's a self-powered unit. Once a collar comes within detection range of that unit, it'll set off alarms, lights flashing, etc., etc., and it will also send you notification that an actual incident has taken place. One other thing is that our collars are completely integrated with Vulcan's Earth Ranger software. This is a fantastic software platform which ingests multiple data streams, be it personnel tracking units, collars, vehicle tracking units, etc., and it's all on one platform. It essentially gives you a snapshot or a battle picture of your protected area or your area of interest, and a control room can then, by knowing where all the relevant resources are, respond to any given incident, be it a human-elephant conflict situation or a poaching incident. It's a fantastic tool. So I'd like to leave you with the words from an IUCN report by Wahed et al. Human-elephant conflict mitigation measures, lessons from Bangladesh. Given the dynamic nature of human-wildlife conflict, continued research and investigations can build on our understanding of the changing nature of these conflicts. It can help us identify measures to minimize the negative impacts of conflict on both human and wildlife, both sides of the coin. Technological innovation can be a crucial part of minimizing these conflicts, and it's very important to first test an innovation at a small scale. Evaluate the impacts and challenges, and based on the results, scale it up. While promoting these innovations, we need to remember that it's a continuous process. We need to modify or improve a system, tool, or technology to respond to new challenges in new times and reinvent accordingly. Thank you.